Hello there, it's Silverly B here, and today I bring you the second part of this three-part tutorial on how to make this small farm. Now, on this second part, we'll be looking at how to use this plot of land that we made on the first part and make a little isometric farm. For starters, we'll need to create a folder where we'll keep all the prefabs that we create. So, a new folder by the name of prefabs. And on this prefabs folder, we need to keep the plot. Now we've turned this simple plot into a prefab. And today, in order to do this isometric farm, we'll be using prefab brushes. And to create this isometric farm, we'll be using the tile map in Unity, and we'll be using the isometric tile map. We're going to be using isometric instead of isometric Z as Y tiles because this is the solution I chose for this project. I prefer to manually set the Z position in order to not run into some troubles that can happen with the collider, but you can just as easily choose another solution and try to go for the isometric Z as Y tiles, but in our case, the Z will be set manually. So let's go with just isometric, and let's give this tile map the name of farm. Now that we've got our farm here, we can see that the grid is not very well aligned with our tile. In order to adjust it, we'll just need to change the grid cell size. So as we can see, it's around 3.5 units bigger than what is set over here. So let's just adjust this to 3.5. And the Y should be half this measure, so 1.75. And we can check this out to see if it looks okay. As we can see, it seems to be a bit bigger. I'm gonna go with 3.4 and 1.7 just to see if it's better. I think this measure is better, so we're gonna go with a grid this size. In case it's still wrong, if you feel like you should adjust it better, then it's just changing here. For instance, we can go with 3.3 and a Y of 1.65. Just adjust the Y to half the measure of X and it should be great for it. Okay, it looks like it's about right, so 3.3 by 1.65 or whatever adjusts to your tile better. So now that we've done this, we can reset the grid's transforms and we can go on to create the first brush. In order to create a prefabs brush that we can use with this prefab that we've just created on this grid we just adjusted to it, we'll first need to get this package to the extras from Unity Technologies on GitHub, and we'll use it in order to create this prefabs brush. Now, in order to import it, I'll just use the package manager window in Unity. We'll go over here to Window, Package Manager, and add package from Git URL. And now on here, we'll paste the URL from the package. And once we have this pasted, we can just add the package and wait while it's installing. Now we've got this installed, we can go over here to the prefabs folder and create that prefab brush. We can head over here to create 2D, and there should be an option for brushes and a prefab brush. When we click over here, there will be a new prefab brush created. We just gotta name it plot brush. And this is what is going to be drawing the brush on the grid. Now, as we can see here on the plot brush, it asks us for a prefab. The prefab is going to be the plot, and we can drag and drop it over here on the prefab slot. Now that we've done this, the plot brush is set up. We just need to open the window to the tile palette, and once we open it, it should look like this. We're just gonna create a new palette. We're gonna name it Farm Palette and hit Create. And it's going to ask us a folder where to store it. If you want to keep your project more organized, maybe you should create a new folder for palettes or tile maps, but I'll keep them together with the plot and the plot brush. So on the prefabs folder, I'll hit select folder. So now over here we have our farm palette, as you can see. And now we gotta just use our new brush. Here you can go to the default brush and you can see that there's a plot brush that you can select. Selecting it, you can just use the normal tools to paint the new tile palette. As you can see, it kind of looks like a mess. This happens because our Y order is not sorted. First, let's erase this mess and also get rid of this plot here, because since we have the prefab, we don't need this anymore. I'm gonna delete it. And now if we go over here and try to draw again on a very neatly manner, you soon realize that when we hit play, what happens is the tiles get drawn in a different manner, going all around the place. So what we can do to avoid this is we can create our script that is going to set the Z order. The script is going to be doing all the work for us, and it is limited, but since this is a very small farm, there's no problem with it. So what we need to do now is we're going to go over here to the scripts folder and we're going to create a new C# script and we're going to name it Isometric Z. Okay, and we can open this up on Visual Studio, and what we're going to need is just the start method. We just need to tell the tile what its Z position is. This is because if you look over here on the main camera, it's positioned at -10, and if we were to position a plot too far behind on the Z-axis, for instance, at -11, it doesn't get seen anymore. If it's positioned at -10, it also doesn't get seen. So we need it to be in front of the camera so it can be seen. As you can see, at -9, you can see it, and at -10, you can't. This happens because of the position of the camera, and we gotta be very careful about it when we're setting this Z position. And the Z position is going to be given by the tile's Y position. This means as high as it is on the Y-axis is going to be how far behind it is on the Z-axis. But it is to be noted that since the camera is positioned at -10, the furthest it is from -10, the furthest is going to be from the camera. So in order to do that, we're just going to need at the start to change the position of the tile. So transform.position is going to be a new. And since we're dealing with the Z-axis here, even though this is a 2D game, we're going to say vector3. And the first is going to be the X. It's going to be the same. So transform.position.x. And then the Y-axis is also going to remain unaltered, position.y. And now the Z-axis is going to be dependent on the Y-axis. And remember, we can't go further than -10, because if we do, the tile is not going to be shown on the camera. What we need to do now is we need to get the transform.position.y on the Z-axis, and we're going to divide it by a large number so that the Z position remains higher than -10, even if your farm is a larger one. So let's go with 100. This over here is going to give us a large range on the Y-axis, but if you want a more dynamic solution for the sorting order of your isometric game, you're welcome to try different solutions. This is for this very specific game where this is not going to become a problem for us in this situation. So I'm gonna go with it, since it's the simpler way to solve it. I'm gonna save it, and let's check out the game, how it works. First, we'll need to add this script, Isometric Z, to the prefab. So let's go to the plot. We can open it up, and we need to go to the script and select it, drag and drop it over here. And as you can see, it already executes, and we can hit play and see if it's working. It appears to be working. Here, if we go back to the game scene, we can see that each individual plot of land is going to have a different z, as we can see over here. Yeah, it is working. So this is the expected behavior, and it seems to be working quite nicely. I'm gonna change the shape of the farm. Now we're going to create a new farm, a smaller one that is going to be square. And as you can see, it looks like a mess over here, but when we hit play, it works perfectly fine because the Z order is correct. And we can plant it, we can harvest it. When we click over here, it's going to harvest the one in the front, and then you can harvest the one in the back. And it works fine as we expect. But when we hit pause, it's going to be looking like a mess again. And to fix this, it's very simple. We're just going to go with project settings. And over here, we're going to change the transparency sort mode to a custom axis. And here you can see that the transparency sort axis is going to be Z. We're going to change it to Y. So Y is going to be 1 and Z is going to be 0. Okay, if we close it, we can head over here and check to see if it's working. And it is working on the Z-axis. And again, you can choose to use the Y-axis to fix this problem, but if we don't have this isometric Z, we're going to have a few problems with the colliders, since the collider is a bit bigger than the tile, since we can click over here and have this working. So in order to avoid this problem with the collider, I just go with this isometric Z that you have here and sorting it on the project settings in order to work during edit mode. And that was it for today, guys. If you haven't already, please check out the first video of this tutorial, or if it's already out, check out the next part of this tutorial in which we're gonna see how to make scriptable objects and load resources in Unity. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.